Our third student this evening is Hannah Resnick.
Good luck.
Hannah is working on her master's degree in the classics program within the College of Arts and Letters. Her presentation is entitled Reading Like a Roman.
What makes this quotation from the beginning of Douglas Adams' novel, The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, funny? Maybe it's the juxtaposition of the biblical quotation with a more colloquial language, or maybe it's the comedic understatement. Could you explain to someone learning English as a second language why this was funny? How about to someone learning English as a second language who lived 2,000 years ago? This is the problem faced by classicists who are trained in reading and understanding the texts which survive from ancient Greece and Rome, the oldest of which are some 2,500 years old. My research focuses on one of the only novels to survive from ancient Rome. It's called The Golden Ass and was written by Apuleius in the 2nd century CE in North Africa. It follows the story of Lucius, whose insatiable curiosity about magic gets him turned into a donkey, or an ass, as scholars of the novel prefer to call him, whereupon he suffers many misfortunes until he's turned back into a human. My goal in researching this novel was to read it as much like a contemporary ancient reader as possible. To do this, I used a method called discourse analysis, which is interested not only in the surface meanings of words and phrases, but also in the connotations they have for a native speaker. For example, Adams beginning his novel with the phrase, "in the beginning," suggests to readers familiar with the Bible that his scale is cosmic, even though the words "in the beginning" do not themselves mean that. During my research, I approached different sections of the novel with the same three-stage process. First, I did a very close reading of the Latin, looking for words or phrases which stuck out to me as unusual. Next, I looked for patterns in the words or phrases I had marked, and third, I tried to make connections between those linguistic patterns I had noticed and the events of the plot. For example, a lot of fancy vocabulary in an otherwise lowbrow passage, or a lot of technical vocabulary in a passage unrelated to that field. Using discourse analysis, I discovered interesting subtext undetectable on a more casual reading. For example, in the third chapter of the novel, Lucius, still a human, is the victim of an extended practical joke in the form of a murder trial, at the end of which it is revealed that the prank was a religious ritual in honor of the god of laughter. Throughout this scene, the language Apuleius uses evokes the language of Roman religious rituals with which his readers would be familiar. This clues them into the punchline and allows them to laugh along with the characters at Lucius's gullibility before Lucius himself realizes. Why read an ancient novel like an ancient reader? First, knowing what Lucius expects his audience to be able to understand tells us something about the culture and education of Romans in the 2nd century in North Africa. Second, it can be difficult, as modern readers when approaching ancient texts, to leave behind our conceptions about narrative and plot behind. Using discourse analysis allows us to approach Apuleius on his own terms. Finally, one of the biggest draws of classics is the ability it gives us to get to know people who lived and died thousands of years ago, but nevertheless have a lot in common with us. Discourse analysis allows us to get to know not only the famous people about whom a lot was written, but the regular, ordinary, everyday people who got home from a long day of work and opened up a novel to unwind, just like we might with Douglas Adams. Thank you.
Congratulations, reading ancient texts like an ancient reader.
I tried.
Something that had never even crossed my mind. Fantastic. Okay, this is probably a question more esoteric than I've ever asked, and that is that we understand that your favorite grammatical case is the accusative.
That's true.
And your favorite color is red.
True.
Is there a connection between the two?
I've never thought of that. I like the accusative because it's so friendly. And of course, English words like whom and him and her are all in the accusative. And I like red because when I was a small child, I got things that were red and my sister got things that were pink. So I think I'd have to think about that some more.
This continues the sister theme at the very first. Well, thank you very much. Excellent job. Really impressive.
Thank you.